Nice. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of a Div0 Unfiltered. We haven't thought of the topic title yet, so probably you'll see on the YouTube, we'll write it right there. It's been quite a long hiatus because most of us had some personal life stuff to go through. It's very difficult to gather the 6 of us here today, but yes, we managed to do it on the late August. So this is your episode 4. And today will be, I'm not going to introduce the guys. It's always the same old guys. You get to see everybody again. Every time I have to say their names, I have to come up with a new nickname. So I'll allow everybody to wave at the camera and say hi to you.
Hi.
Very nice.
Hello.
Yeah. All right. So the topic for today, for episode 4, we will probably sync off with about 2 topics. And we start off with the first one, one of my personal favorite. It's about the misconception of cybersecurity professionals. Especially, let me just give you a scenario. Let's say, for example, company A hires or engages a group of pen testers from this particular company B to do a penetration testing or vulnerability assessment on their application, newly developed application C. So B comes in to pen test C, and upon finding, some kind of findings, company A decided to, scold or discipline their developers by saying, "How come you code like this? We're not supposed to have this kind of vulnerability being found in our applications." And this tends to, make the developers feel in a certain kind of way towards the people that's finding the kind of findings, and it just, make it more difficult for Team B to be working with developers from Team A in order to pen test application C. Okay, too many alphabets. I'm kind of screwing around my brain. Yes.
So company.
Yes. So as B is working on C, there can be, like, for example, times when they require developers' help. Let's say, for example, for them to clarify a certain point of what kind of service is running particular at this point, especially when it's a white box testing, or even if they were requesting for like source codes, that kind of stuff. But because of the fact that they do not want them to be able to find any kind of findings, so that they will not get hit from their company for developing the app, they could, create some kind of inertia, especially when it comes to this kind of event, penetration testing event. I think I'm getting a bit too specific, but you get a flow, of where we are going. So this generally leaves quite a bitter taste in the mouth, especially in the developer's point of view, and also in the cybersecurity specialist point of view, because both sides don't really get their work done. Because this comes to a first misconception that cybersecurity or penetration testing is really meant to, just hit the developer like, haha, you got this particular bug in your application, and I managed to find it, and this you didn't do your job well enough. But actually not. But pen testing is really, from a point of view of quality assurance. Like your particular application is up to this security standard, and I am able to guarantee that. So now I'm going to open it up to my fellow mates over here to discuss about funny experiences or kind of this kind of misconceptions that they faced with their line of work. Yeah. Okay, so allow me to arrow someone first. I'll probably arrow my co-host straight away. Let's go, Fadli. So, what do you have to add on to this particular topic?
Oh, that was quick, bro.
Yeah.
Smooth. That's quite smooth.
But that's a nice background.
Oh, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
You look so much professional now compared to just now.
I think the challenge here, I think it depends, right? Internal engagement or external engagement. Pen testing has different way to look at it, things like, but basically the reason why we pen test a product or a program or a website is basically to identify the insecurity, of the systems or the product, to ensure that it's better secure before you roll it out to the public or put it out in production, right? Now, some of the challenges I faced in the past when working as a pen tester is, you need to understand that most developers are not security minded. And back then when I was doing pen test, there was very little talk about this thing called DevSecOps, right? Where you input security during development. That term wasn't really exist at that time. But I think now people are all talking about it. But at the same time, majority of the developers still now are not security minded. They know how to develop. They are very well versed in programming languages, but in security-wise, they are still lack of it. So usually when people from organization who wants to have this pen test, the people that decide to have this pen tester are not the development team, but another team to ensure that this has to be done before rolling up to the public or production. So that's when engagement started, right? And we as pen tester, when we come in, we have to talk or engage with the developers because they are the one that knows the product, and they are the ones that needs to provide us with the information. Now, the challenge here is transparency. If the developers are not really transparent into providing us the information, we can only work on based on the information that is provided. And then we always have these rules of engagement, right? And the information that is provided that help us to perform the necessary action that we can based on the information provided. If they are quiet about it or decided not to put certain things into scope, we are definitely blinded, but we have a documentation to say that, look, this is what you provide to us, and this is what we can do, and this is what we are able to achieve. All right. If anything goes wrong, we always have this agreement that we can show for first, right? And yeah, okay, to give you a real life experience, back then when I was doing a pen test for a company, a British telecoms at the time, the place that I was doing this engagement was in Saudi Arabia, which is very interesting place. I was doing a pen test for I think it was electric grid company, a power grid company.
Nice.
So at the time of doing it, we encountered a lot of vulnerabilities, a lot of issues. Now, during the meeting, when we completed the assessment or engagement, we had this meeting with the board of directors and all those high level people, seniors. Before the meeting started, or at least a day before the meeting started, these people will actually talk to us and say, look, can you remove this, remove that from the document, because one, they are afraid that if the senior level people see this, they will straight away shout, why, right? So, but as pen testers, we cannot, right? We have to disclose whatever we find, because some of these are really high critical vulnerabilities, and if you don't let the senior management knows, then what are you hired for? Are you being hired to lie, to make them look good? No, right? So my take is there definitely some kind of miscommunication, usually internally, right? And that will provide challenges to the pen testers. So I think that's my take for the issue that we are discussing.
Nice.
Yeah,
Actually,
give my historic view, right? Of I think it's a okay. There's actually a positive side of things. Let me take my given the old man in the house, I give my historic view. So I think the early days when we start to do some level of pen testing, it will say, okay, let's do it. If it didn't go very well, the security folk will say, fine, go do it. Now let's fix it sometime later. But because in the recent years, and which is a good thing, right? Some of the security testing has become a very board level issue, right? It's good because we want the board to be aware. People know the reputation risk of feeling when the product is not secure become a real issue. I think that sort of start to create a set of behavior. So imagine the fact is, if there's issue, you can sort out at the working level, that's fine, right? But the moment the issue get escalated up, right, and then you have people, bosses who only understand high, medium, low, right? Why is that 10 medium or 5 high? What guys are doing? That creates a tension downstream. I think that on one hand is a positive thing because people cares about it now. On the other hand, it sort of create the wrong behavior. I think Fadli says the right thing, right? The key is really how do you shift left, right? How do you get developers to pick up early? But yet the developer ecosystem is very complex. Sometimes it's not one team, it's multi-team developers are using somebody else's framework, and then some parts outsourced overseas, some is done locally. You have an architect here, it's whole, and then I'm using software from other people who are left behind. I don't bother to change your code. I just wrap around it. A code API wholly doesn't fail, right? So there's a whole bunch of complexity in the in the development world, and they make it very hard to untangle. And then it so happens I'm the developer who's supposed to call 10 different API. I just develop one module and get caught by the whole pen test problem. I think that's really some of this, my own experience, some of this complexity that it brings. I think it's really down to how people deal with challenge. And the other challenge is really, if you think about most typical project, right? A project manager plan pen test at the very tail end of the whole life cycle, right at the end, right? So, and in between, you deal with a whole bunch of shit, right? Like, for example, requirements change, a whole bunch of stuff, right? You fix it 10 different times, and the guy who probably have really worked 2 months, 12 hours every night, right? And here till end and realize, gosh, man, no, 50 vulnerabilities, right? And go fix it, right? I think that have created a kind of unnecessary tension. And the PM is just say, look. And then at that point in time, everybody just want to blame each other, right? So someone's going to blame and then I think the problem is just from a pure so-called the pyramid model, right? Right, the tail bottom in the way is the developers. So those poor fellas it's going to take the bulk of the heat, right? And then that creates that kind of behavior, which I think is a bit unnecessary. We can plan a lot better, we can communicate a lot better, we can train a lot better. That's my own thoughts.
Yeah, maybe the current development framework, even with the agile framework itself, most companies that employs may not be the most optimal.
Yeah, and we use so much code. Right? Give an example, because we are running cyber assembly, right? We use a lot of Node.js packages, right? Every week we run auto scan, right? Every week there's vulnerability. Every single damn week, right? Oh man, it's just terrible, right? And because we have, for the convenience of using packages who can roll software fast, actually running a startup, right? You almost don't have a choice. And of course, the good thing is I nobody else to blame, but except for myself. So it's easy to make those kind of decisions. I say, look, we're going to deal with this kind of risk. Yeah,
of course, there's going to be risk mitigation that comes along, with the security findings and all that. But it does set in this very toxic mentality, or I would say mentality. I would say it's a very toxic kind of concept, regarding like, when a pen tester comes, it's like I don't know, it's like during company audit when the auditors come. Oh no, the auditors found something. Everybody's gonna get spanked. That kind of stuff. So,
and then unfortunately, the audit thing is a lot of cat and mouse game, right? You cannot be nice. The problem, you can't say, oh yeah, you know what, I'm a blank check, right? No. No, you get screwed pretty badly, right? And you have to keep some stuff because next year you're going to let go some stuff for people to audit, right? So I think that kind of mechanism didn't help. They didn't help. It doesn't create a teamwork, team sport kind of culture, right? Although we say cybersecurity a team sport, right? But unfortunately, it's hard to create a team sport in a corporate environment where someone had to be accountable. Right? That becomes, I think, the big problem. Yeah.
Right, but do you think that cybersecurity findings should be something accountable to the developer? Do you not feel like, let's say, for example, maybe not, I won't even say like the example that you raised, like where you use third-party libraries. Do you feel like it is the developer's fault for using the third-party libraries that could be vulnerable, in a penetration testing scan or vulnerability assessment kind of scan? Who do you think is accountable in this particular sense?
Whether fault or not, I mean, ultimately, I always tell people, maybe, of course, nowadays we sort of glorify developers, right? And then you hear Google paying like, $200K, $300K US dollars a year for developers, right? So that's kind of glorified developers. But the reality is a bit of a blue collar job, right? These are people who grind, right? And if we are a supplier, let's say I'm a development house, right? My job is to write software. The company's profit is based on my time, right? If I spend, if my bosses sells fine, and unfortunately a lot of contracts are fixed price, right? If the project is being sold for 20 man days, right, and the company make a profit of it, every time a problem is being found, and at the point when the salesman sell it, everybody sell with optimism, right? Yeah, I'm going to do a project in 20 days, right? And then when they realize that the 20 days on the basis that we have a set of framework, and that frameworks have therefore, and then along the way, new vulnerabilities appear for this framework. And the way to fix it is maybe you have to throw away the whole damn thing and rewrite a set of library again, right? That will basically eat into your margin, right? So basically from the 20 days that you think you're going to make money, you're going to spend 40 days. At the point you're losing money, right? So the way to deal with losing money is you get a poor fella to work harder, right? Instead of work 8 hours, spend a weekend because it's the same pay, right? I'm going to pay you for 1 month. I'm going to squeeze you dry and book the weekend. That's the that's unfortunately is an ecosystem, right? It's a bit of I'm sure body shopping, selling of labor. Is it a developer fault? Yeah, because there's writing software is actually quite complex. It's a very complex thing in today because there's so many layers of software today, right? We for expediency of delivering a sexy application, a whole bunch of stuff, right? That layer of complexity therefore have expanded, right? I think that's really the difficult problem. So I'm sure I don't think it's a developer's fault, right? But I think what can be done is educate the developer, right? I think some things we're promoting in the DevSecOps world is quite good, right? Shift left, run the static code analysis early. Why can't we scan every single day, right? And these tools are there, right? There's nothing stops us of doing static code scanning, even dynamic scanning every single day, right? But and maybe the other thing is really think about how whether companies are a buyer of software willing to pay the premium to say, look, I'm going to pay you X amount to build a software, and I also pay you extra X amount to continuously look out for vulnerability and fix them. So if the economics is right, I think it's not a problem. I think the problem here is that I'm not talking about in-house developer, right? I'm just talking about outsourcing developer. I think there's a flaw in the economics, right? Because the moving part is new vulnerabilities are being found every single damn day, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially so with a bigger cybersecurity ecosystem. Every other day I'm seeing some new vulnerability being found, being published, some new CV or 0 days being published.
Yeah.
So yeah, I totally agree. When you are being pressed for time, especially with the it's a time contract. Let's say you have to pay LD if you don't fit a particular amount of time. Liquidated damages for those of you viewers who don't understand. I should stop using a lot of acronyms here. Yeah. But yeah, so huge problem with that, and the only way that you can really solve it would be if the buyers or the person who the so-called contractors, I'll call them, the guys who go out for the contracts, actually is willing to pay more for this kind of service. But that I would say is like a utopian dream. It's impossible. Like every single company will try to fight for the cheapest one. So whoever I have this subject, whoever is the bidder with the cheapest amount of money that I can spend to get this project built will win the contract. So it's quite oxymoron. I mean, maybe not oxymoron, but ironic, whereby it's conflicting against each other. On one hand you want this, on the other hand everybody's going to fight for the cheapest contract.
Yeah, so but if you think about it, people pay for tools that runs all the time. Let's give an example, right? People pay for SIM, right? People pay for SAW. People pay for a whole bunch of stuff that runs a network, right? That is to continuously monitor a profile, vulnerability scan or whatnot, right? But isn't the most important thing is to making sure that you pay for a continuous fix of your software?
Right, definitely.
I know, but you're going to
yes.
put you pay for all the stuff around it, right? No, not you're going to fix the stuff right at the core.
Yeah, actually, this brings me to another point that I've noticed a lot with different companies is that a lot of them relies on infrastructure as a security, security mechanism. Like, don't worry, it's air gapped. It's in the intranet. It's air gap. It's totally even if we have vulnerability code, that the mitigation is going to be air gapped. It's in intranet.
The wall.
Yeah. So that actually is quite I would say not very good lah. Okay, I'm at a loss of words, right? Because I don't want to use something that's too extreme. Later people call me out. But yes, so it's not very good. I feel at the core, right, it should be the developer who has a security mindset when he's developing the codes or developing the product itself. And then even at that, even if the vulnerability is found by the external or internal penetration testing team, right, it should not be treated as a mistake, but more of a finding, of something that they can hone or polish better to make the application more secure.
Yeah, but I think we're doing that shift, right? And allow the rest to speak a bit more. I realize I'm staying a lot of airtime. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just so inspired today. Yeah.
I actually have a question. I mean, just to caveat, I don't have any experience in pen testing, but I do have experience in writing a lot of reports. So you did mention just now, Panyong, that senior management really just interested to know the number of highs, number of mediums, number of lows, and then just now, Peng Fei, you were talking about I forgot what you're talking about, but something to do with that. But so I'm wondering, like, is there maybe like a better way, or maybe a different way in how we can report such findings? Instead of like being very logical, but rather share as well the impact. So when you want to give it to senior management, I'm sure you don't give the technical report, right? You don't tell them, company B said that there's 10 high,
Yeah.
3 medium, 2 low. I'm sure you would have to give the additional context so that the developers don't get flamed, right? If they see, oh, there's 10 high, but actually this 10 high can be easily mitigated, or there's some issues surrounding it. I mean, yeah. So if I'm not sure how the reporting's like, but maybe you can shine some light on that. Yeah.
But I would assume most of the time, by the time you hit management, most of those will be mitigated as much as possible. It's probably the second or third cut before hit management. So yeah, I think that's really where and most of those are just deal with deadlines, product launch deadline or whatnot, right? Get it out. So I think that's where the timeline pressure is. It's a hard one. Yeah, but I want to go back to Peng Fei's earlier point about our traditional model of building walls and defense in depth and stuff like that. And say, it's really inside the perimeter, right? And then I hate marketing word, but I just use the word like zero trust and say, I think the way is fine, right? You recognize that you're going to be breached somehow. We're going to protect further down. I think that mindset about you're going to be breached, let's apply a zero trust approach. That shift of momentum can apply to the way we do software. I say, look, you know there'll be vulnerability. How do you if you can constantly do trust and validate? Can you constantly do fixes, right? And maybe you should come up with a new marketing term, and then make yourself famous. Yeah. Zero shit or something like that.
Actually,
I think I can. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. I think I have a couple of points that I really want to weigh in. Another old man, so I'm probably gonna rant for a while.
I think you're the second youngest here, man.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
He is, right?
You are. Yeah.
Remember, you're the second youngest here.
No, he's the third youngest actually.
Oh, the third youngest.
Yeah, I'm the second youngest.
All right.
All right. Okay.
Good job, old man.
Well, I am young, but but everyone just assumes.
You just want to show off your lost experience. That was experience. Come on,
to filter it.
It's unfiltered, my friend.
So okay. I think Peng Fei and I think Pan Yu Yong mentioned about things like all this is very complex. In terms of like there are various different teams working on it and various different software versions and so on and so forth. I think all in all, we just have to accept that when it comes to technical, it's gonna be complex, right? That is just gonna be the unfortunate truth, right? Mm-hmm. And that's gonna be like this forever. I think the complexity of this entire problem is more human, right? And I think, but for that, I think that is something that we can progress. And looking at the last couple of years, or looking at the last like 15 years, right? We have progressed quite a bit, and it's just we just need to do a bit more for the next 5 years. And I think this particular problem might just get better in the next 5 years. If you ask me, honestly, being rather optimistic about it on this. Why I say so is actually Isa was you're asking about how then should report actually looks like. I think we all went through the same old schools, right? I mean, they will tell you, by the time you reach the kind of pen testing, you should not include technical. Then it will be executive summary, blah blah blah. Actually, it's not really about what is in the report. I think it's all in all, I will boil down to one single thing, which is the attitude on security, right? Which is very simple as the attitude of security in a way of, put it very simply, is the very denominator is no one no one likes to be caught out. As simple as that, right? No one wants to be told that you are unsecured. There is something wrong with you. And coupling that, this kind of a very premier part of our mind that we don't like to be exposed, right? And couple that now with people's attitude of cybersecurity is actually no one cares about cybersecurity. I put it very honestly, no one cares about cybersecurity. Ask people what the hell is cybersecurity, right? So all security folks, we can talk about all different kinds of things, but to the layman, it's not about just to the layman is not about I just want to be secure. Is the real attitude is I want to know that I am okay. So they don't want to be told that they are not okay, right? They don't want to know that they're unsecure. That's not the real reason. That's not the real attitude behind things. If you really drill down to the question that most bosses will ask, like, hey, got this incident, then they look at you, are we okay? Actually, or any technical question, they try to ask you, are we patched, are we whatever, right? And any incident and so on, they want to understand the landscape, right? Behind all those things, it's just they want to know they're fine, right? I give you an example, I'll give you a story, which is about this thing about no one likes to be no one's like to be caught up, right? Even I felt vulnerable once, right? I don't know whether y'all still remember, and perfect, I'm sure if I bring this out, you still remember about this particular case. Last year or earlier this year in SynCon 2020, right? We held a workshop by our very dear friend Dennis, who actually did a workshop on web app bug bounty or web app hunting, right? So the night or 2 nights before he did that workshop, he emailed me. He come and tell me, I said, Emil, I tell you one thing, Infosec city.com have a finding. Can you don't patch it because I'm gonna use it as an example.
Yeah.
Right. So to me is when it's like as a security guy, I was like, yeah, sure. But then during that workshop, when I know that he is going to talk about vulnerabilities that he found or this finding that he found, I was nervous. Right. Me at that, and I know that, hey, you know what? Someone who has been practicing cybersecurity for the last 15 years, for me to feel this way, just imagine someone who isn't. Right? Just imagine someone, some chairman, some CEO, some CFO who are born in the era of typewriters, right? Now you tell them all these complications and tell them about cybersecurity and all these all these things. How do you think they really feel, right? So and that ties also, I want to rant about is actually a lot of things about KPIs and how we view, a lot of people view our jobs. So a lot of cybersecurity, actually I met a lot of cybersecurity folks that they are proud of, you know, their ability to find findings, to break stuff. And it's like, no matter what, oh, this is critical. You know how small it is, they will tell you it's damn critical.
That's true.
The KPI is like to blow it damn big. Right? So then you couple all this attitude from one end versus the other. Right. And then of course your poor middle bugger, which is your developers or your implementers, your ops guy. Right. And that creates all this resentment across all this ecosystem. So I think if we want to fix this, actually just we need to tackle the attitude of cybersecurity, right? It's the same as bounty, right? When you want to get the highest bounty, you want to talk about how critical that is. I saw a report before. I saw a report before, and I saw a couple of reports, right? Of actually vulnerabilities being submitted, and some of these vulnerabilities writers are one of the couple of famous ones that has been presenting in Vegas in DEF CON, dropping 0 days all the time. And there are reports. Some of the reports I saw is every sentence there's at least 3 exclamation marks. You know, things like this. Like, this is how we view cybersecurity. It's like we view it as such a wow, the whole world is falling down, and the translation of it, and end up everyone have this tension in between. And I think all in all, as long as we really look at cybersecurity objectively, really when both answer they want to talk about cybersecurity, they really meant it, and not just I just want to be okay kind of attitude. And how cybersecurity people feel that, all right, I'm here to help. Right? I have interacted with a couple of consultants that to them, when I talk to them, say, oh, so what do you actually want to achieve in cybersecurity? It's like, oh, I want to tell people that they are wrong. Or I want to tell people that I'm here to break stuff. I'm here to stop things from happening. And I was like, that's not what we are here for. It's worse. You know, we are here to stop things from happening. Then nothing will happen. Developers will want to hide from us. That's worse. You know, with shadow ITs and so on. It's gonna be horrible, right? And yeah. So I think the good shift to this, and one of the improvement that we're seeing is DevSecOps. As I think Fadli, Pan Yong, you all talked about it right from the get-go, right? Which is I always when I talk about DevSecOps, I always like to I always want to talk about this ratio 1-10-100, right? There's going to be 100 developers, 10 operation guys, and 1 security person. And just imagine one of us as developers, the amount of commits that we do per day, per hour. Security guys will never be able to catch up, right?
Yeah.
So, and if security guy is always there to stop something, then and not work together, it is never gonna work. So what we need is really developers and whoever to really start practicing cybersecurity. And actually, I'm actually a big fan of we need to do cybersecurity without doing cybersecurity. Because the moment you tell people that you need to do cybersecurity, they'll be like, that's an additional task for me. And I think us as cybersecurity practitioners, or especially a big call out and shout out to cybersecurity engineers, right? If we start thinking about how we can really underline cybersecurity as given, right? I think that is one important direction that we should go into, right? I'll give you an example, right? this example I hold it quite close to my heart. Actually, if you read the recently or the Safer Cyberspace Master Plan that is actually published by CSA last year, they actually mentioned something like this, which we should view cybersecurity kind of like how we treat clean water, right? Clean water is something that we take it for granted now, right? And clean water is actually a big step in civilization, that no longer we are worried about getting sick and so on. We still have this conversation every time, like, oh, we are going to a less developed country, right? Oh, be careful, don't drink that tap water, you can't do this, can't do that. But in Singapore, we can do that. But why? Because we invested in an infrastructure of clean water, right? In cybersecurity, what do we tell people? Oh, you need to do code scanning, you need to have antiviruses, you need to have this, you need to have that. So if we have approached clean water the way we approach cybersecurity, is the same as everyone go and buy a water filter for all your taps, and before you drink it, make sure you measure the pH value, and you get the point, right? If we do that, it's never going to scale, it's never going to work, right? So we need to start thinking about the underlying, you mentioned earlier, infrastructure, right? A lot of people put that buzzword inside, oh, my infrastructure is secure by default. Is somehow an annoying thing to think about, but I think it is something that we should actually to seriously consider how we can make sure that at least the underlying code or the underlying infrastructure, anything that's built on the whole architecture of it is secure to begin with. And I think that will help a big step, right? It's just like security, right? We trust our Singapore police force to enforce, to make sure, Singapore is a very safe country. But of course, it also means that it's not zero crime. But imagine 50 years ago, Singapore government, when we become independent, and says that, hey, actually, this is your problem. Everyone hire a security guard. Yeah. It's never going to work, right? It's not going to work in scale. So we need it's all about the whole attitude of it. And as well as security, us as security profession, we should stop putting blames and that level of responsibility on some of the users and some of the non-security folks, right? And let's start thinking about how we can, what we call usable security or even invisible security, right? And that definitely, I think that is the way to really, push security forward. Yeah, I'm just gonna stop ranting now. Although, and actually, I got one more point. Which is
just finish it, man. Just finish it.
Yeah, keep on ranting.
Just finish it.
Okay, last point, which is actually talking about the economy of security, right? Talking about, I think Pan, you mentioned, like, should we then
rethink the economics,
yeah. So it's like whether people will pay for security. I think people will. I think again, it depends on how we project security. At the end of the day, it's the same. It's about quality. Right? It's about quality of life at the end of the day. Whether cybersecurity is part of it, and I think slowly it is. With all the breaches, people become a bit more aware. It's the same thing, right? I mean, I don't fully agree that it's always the lowest bid wins. I think it all depends on the attitude again of it, because it's the same thing, right? If you want earphones, right, will you buy a Bose? Will you buy a Sony? Will you buy someone for $5 from Taobao, right? At the end, people will want to pay for quality because it sounds better. You don't hurt your ear. Same thing as software. If we make it very clear that there are purchasing that how do you shop for security, I think that helps. I think another great initiative that was launched last year by CSA is the cybersecurity labeling scheme. right? They actually put the number of stars on consumer IoTs, on your smart hubs, on your CCTV and so on. That actually shows whether a company actually invest security. And hope, one thing that, and if with enough awareness, customers will be able to make that choice. And if there is a correlation then and hopefully there will be, that people choose more secure products, then naturally that will shift manufacturers' view on cybersecurity. It's just like how we choose aircon, right? For people who are more green, more conservative, they want all your different ticks. When you buy food, you go and check out your hawkers whether they are grade A, grade B, grade C, right? Foodies sometimes will be like, the dirtier the better, but of course there are going to be eccentric choices, right?
Yeah.
But it still shifts the way people view things, and I think being transparent through all this labeling and so on is actually a good step, right? Of course, everyone can say that labeling is not 100% perfect, but sometimes it's better to take one step forward than not to take at all. That's my whole rant from the last 30 minutes of digesting.
Not 30 minutes. It's
Yeah, it's
about,
really long.
It's about 10, 12 minutes.
Wait, I
of
don't think
airtime.
it's not necessary. It sounds like a marketing for CSA.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you need to talk to CSA HR that this episode will be sponsored by CSA.
CSA,
Yeah, CSA, if you're listening to this, please reach out to Emil.
I think Brandon has a point to say, right? Brandon?
Yeah. So I think it boils down to foundation for the developers, right? Like previously when I was in university, we were not taught about cybersecurity. So there was no discussion, there was no topic about cybersecurity, and we are only focusing on development, all the algorithms and stuff like that. So when you are out from university, and let's say if you, like for me, I started working in the Philippines and there's no cybersecurity conscious, or people there are not cybersecurity conscious at the time. So everyone is just like writing code and ship whatever they have as fast as they can. And then when I moved here in Singapore, I work with smaller companies as well. And it's the same thing. Like we have to race against the market, right? Yeah. So the first person to bring their product to market wins the race, right? And then eventually all the shit happens. So yeah, so I worked with a company, an IoT company previously, and so we have this like a router for all of the IoT devices, and some researcher actually found out that the password is actually embedded within the router, and they presented it in DEF CON or Black Hat. Wow. And the reaction of the company was like, it's like everyone was like just crazy and panicking and stuff like that. They didn't approach it as a opportunity to build a better device, a better product. So, and another we had two cases at the time. So my team, we had an API that if you look at the API, it's quite difficult to find a vulnerability on it. Like even if you run automated scanning and stuff like that. But a German, I think they hired a German company, and they nitpicked on the items within the body of the API, and they found out one of the item was not properly what do you call this? It was not properly handled. So they were able to find a way to get into the database. And the same thing happens. Like everyone was just panicking about it and stuff like that. And I think from my perspective at the time, they were trying to cover up with the mistake. They were afraid to accept that something had failed, and they're trying to like blame it on other people. So I think the attitude, the foundation for developers, cybersecurity is not there. I'm not sure with the current curriculum here in Singapore?
Oh, I can tell
I'm
you
not-
that since I just recently graduated, I would say for my course, the software engineer course, I don't think they are cybersecurity centric. Most of their modules are still very oriented about the development and stuff. We share one particular module, especially in my class, is especially regarding secure software development. Most of the cybersecurity techniques, say for example, of securing the something as simple as cert pinning. I mean, the software engineers have never heard of it before. Yeah, so it's lacking even right now in the curriculum. Yeah.
Where do you study?
So-
Where do you study? Perfect.
Okay.
But you can't disclose it. It's not. You need to keep
They give me a
during
call,
the yeah.
Okay, lah. I also, I mean, you can definitely they'll be able to.
Just start with S. No.
Yes. All right. What other letters would you like to buy? Would you like to buy the vowels?
Yes.
I think what I'm hearing mostly is the issue is here to me when I hear everyone's talking here is the issue isn't really with the developers, but more on the blaming culture that exists in the organization. Because once you have that kind of culture happening, no one wants to take the accountability, and because of that, developers tend to feel threatened once such a thing is disclosed. So when you remove this blaming culture or reduce this, it allows more transparency from the developers. So that's one thing. I don't think the solution to this is to get the developers to learn security. I don't think that's going to happen. It should start from young, but you can't teach old dog new tricks, right? So it's not easy, right? Unless you are Cesar Milan, but not everybody is Cesar Milan who can teach an old dog new tricks, right? So instead of developers do what they are good at, security testers do what they are good at. So they need they need to have a very good positive coexistence together that they can actually cooperate internally.
Yeah,
right?
complement each other. Yeah.
Correct. That's what's needed, right? Because development teams is development team, security is security team. These are two different teams. So the challenge is how to make two different silos combine together and learn together. So that's what an organization needs, right? So once you have that, I think you would eventually reduce this blaming culture thing, right? So yeah, I think that's my take on this.
Yeah. But I think the problem today is the blaming culture is very heavy in cybersecurity. If you think about a CISO job, right? Unfortunately, he's the one to carry the blame in many organizations, right? So if that is the starting point, and the man who's supposed to take care of security in a company is the man who's hired to carry the blame. That makes the whole do I blur out? Yeah, that makes the whole thing kind of sophisticated. Yeah, I think that's really one part of the problem. I want to go back to, I think Fadli bring a good point. One possibility to say, knowing well, there's two paradigms, the security folks, the developer folks, right? I think there's opportunity there to sort of architect some of the security into the design, right? So if there is a better framework, a better architecture that can sort of extract out some of the issues for developer, I think that's something organizations pursue. But some of these things have to think quite deeply, right? Because that in itself also creates a certain level of complexity in the solution. So I think something worth thinking about. But I also want to share a bit about my personal story. Right? So for self-assembly, of course, I got all my friends who are professional pen testers to run pen tests for a good price, right? That help us do it. And of course, as a business owner, I say, look, if someone find a vulnerability, that's fantastic, right? Because every cent worth, right? The more medium, more highs they find, right? The better return for me for the investment, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it still goes back to, I think we all share a bit about attitude and mindset. And because I think there's value, when that job gets done, I feel fantastic that someone found it, we can go fix the vulnerability. But again, I also have the same feeling as Emil, right? So whenever we have vulnerability, and that get flagged with some report, and because we sell cybersecurity training, in the way we are a cybersecurity company, right? When customer question us, we just feel bad. Right? I say, come on, man, we can't be having those vulnerability. But the reality that is, right? We are not perfect, right? We are a lean team. We do stuff. We're going to make mistake, and then the issue is how can we fix it fast enough? And we know that some cases we are not risking our customers' data. I think that's most important for us. Yeah.
I think that's a great point. But as what we said, Fali mentioned just now was the complement between the developer and the security analyst. But if you were to bring it to design, that means the person who is doing the security implementation by design of the application, the guy has to understand development.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about one guy who is able to adapt in both roles, and I think that's the correct direction to head towards. But
Yeah.
at least like as progressively for developers to be more security driven also in their design of their software, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the design piece can also be a team sport as well. It doesn't need to be that master super the know-all architect who does everything. It's quite difficult in today's world.
Yeah.
But it's really, can we create a team sport in the design? I'm going to sort out my focus.
You know, okay, man. You know, okay.
That's right. Yeah.
But I think there's a.
Yes, Renan, yes.
I think there's a new practice right now, right? Like that certain teams would assign a cybersecurity champion.
To
work with the security team and then bring this knowledge back to the team and then start sharing everything.
Yeah, so generally right now what I'm seeing is that the security champion is generally upskill on the job. So it's a developer that they select within the team itself and they upskill him on that. But I always refer to development as like drawing. Is every single artist, when you develop your own code, you have a different style to it. You have a different when you read my code, it's my style. When I read someone else's code, I know it's their style, that kind of thing. So generally, if you want me to, like, for example, like to change my style of drawing and to implement a new style, which is to implement it with security, it's a little bit more difficult if you're not trained with it from the start. So I think it could be a great of course, to wrap up this particular topic, it is a great thing for number one is, of course, the management or the company's point of view of how findings is supposed to be like, how findings is supposed to be dealt with to the developer, so that there isn't like any kind of hard feelings between a pen tester finding the findings and the developer fixing the findings. It should just be as simple as assurance. Like the moment you accept this, these findings are found, at least it's not found by a black hat. It's found by pen testers that you engage and white hats hackers who want to help you, improve the security of your software. Number two is, of course, for us to have to shift towards a more a framework that encompasses more of software security, as opposed to just purely relying on the hardware, or be it like zero trust, like the buzzword right now. My friend who went to DEF CON and at the Black Hat recently, he told me he's going to shift himself if he hears zero trust one more time. Zero trust and ransomware.
Take a shot whenever someone says zero trust, you get drunk in
that's it.
Trust that fellow,
Zero trust ransomware. That's the buzzword of 2021. Yeah. So
I'm zero trusting ransomware. Yeah.
Yeah. So the second is, of course, the mindset shift, and slowly, but you know how everything is profit driven, so people will start slowly poking like how we have full stack developers. This kind of idea didn't exist, like, let's say about 20 years or maybe even like 10 years ago. There's just front end and back end. There's no such thing as a full stack. But slowly, as we evolve, when they slowly incorporate this in, maybe corporations become greedy, and then they'll ask for people to be like, oh, you must be security trained in order for you to become a developer. So it could take that kind of shift, but I think it's still very healthy for us to proceed on, with a framework where developers have a security mindset as they're doing their software development. And of course, to change the current development life cycle, whereby pen testing is only placed at the end when you have done everything already, and then you go for a PT. By then, when the findings come out and they say, oh, this library is vulnerable, and then you realize in your code you utilize it like 3,000 times. That's good luck. That's a huge amount of time you have to waste to try to fix this particular vulnerability. Yeah. So I think that's a great wrap up to this particular topic.
Can I just add two things?
Sure.
Not to like break your rhythm or wrap up. I think there's a couple of things quite interesting that's happening right now, right? I think one is also the language. Choice of languages, right? So familiar with Rust. Rust in the way brings to bear, we make mistake harder to make, right? For people to make harder security mistakes. So I think that's one thing people should think about. But again, people tend to choose the so-called easier language. And JavaScript is a fantastic language. I code in it. I have nothing against it, but sometimes it can bring about some of the challenges. The other thing that become more interesting today, I think that's the future with things like confidential compute. And that almost force some of the behavior, but that also could require developers to up their game quite a fair bit. I think there are good forward-looking trend to for better secure coding. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think maybe sooner there'll be like a framework that pops up.
Yeah.
You know, like how we follow OWASP for our
our
so
in
security
a way,
needs.
what's quite good for things like Rust, there was a lot of secure thinking when the language is being built. So if as much as those can be built into the core language, this Ami's example of water, right? If the language is the water, right? If you're there in the water, you don't make that kind of mistake. Of course, there are some logical mistakes you're going to make. That's a different thing. But if those things can be in the language, that'd be quite fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And of course, if the developer who's using it, they're able to search out and don't utilize, let's say, for example, like vulnerable third-party libraries, that'll be great. I mean, that's from a secure development point of view. Yeah. So I think that's great. We wrapped up our first topic, and then do we have time for the? Yeah, we do have time. I'm asking these kind of questions, but
we always have time.
Yes, we always have time. So following up with this, right? There's also a second problem that proceeds itself, like whereby development teams feels like the findings of the security professionals are not up to standard. Let's say, for example, you find a particular XSS thing, and then they'll be like, but this is so rudimentary, there's nothing wrong. I mean, it's in an admin account, this kind of stuff. So then that's when they start doubting on the quality of the cybersecurity professional. And this brings us to a thing whereby the government is pushing so hard, that we are saying that we have a huge gap, a huge lapse in cybersecurity professionals. But are we really out of talent in cybersecurity? Yes. It's actually a brilliant topic that was brought up by my co-host. I just had to give him a shout out here. People think I thought about it, but actually I didn't.
So me again lah.
Yeah, of course, I'm gonna shoot you. Yeah, straight up.
Okay.
Are we really out of talent, Fali?
So my thoughts on this, the definition of the talent itself is it's not properly defined, and I think different organization or employers tend to define talent equating it as experience, which I don't think that's the right way to do. Right now, if we Singapore keep on saying, or companies always say, we don't have enough talent, we need to hire people from overseas, we need foreign talent. But here's the thing, right? If you look at every year, hundreds or thousands of students graduated from cybersecurity, from university or diploma or whatsoever, right? Even from ITE. So how can you say we don't have people in cybersecurity? That's one. Now, secondly, talent is not defined by experience. So if you look at people who say that we don't have enough talented individuals, but when you see these people being hired for the talent, if you look at their profile, it's all about they have more than 10 years of experience. So if you equate talent through experience, then you're not finding talent, you're just finding experienced individuals. Yeah, of course, experienced individual can be talented as well, but you cannot, if you define it that way, then sure, we don't have enough talent, right? We don't have enough talent in that sense. But if you look at
people.
Can I interject? I like the definition. I really like it because I'll be very, very talented. Yeah. Extremely talented. Yeah.
So every time when I go to forum, when I go to seminar, local companies or foreign companies talking on the stage, on the podium and say, we are looking for talented individuals. I keep asking myself, how do you define talent, right? Do you really want experienced individuals? Because there's a lot of students that have showcased their talent in by speaking in conferences, by writing blogs, by demonstration, YouTube videos, articles, stuff like that. So to me, those are talented efforts that can be defined as talents. But why don't you hire these people? Because you know for a fact that they are not experienced enough to understand the inner workings of a company. And that's the reason why you don't hire these students or graduates. But you keep saying that we don't have enough talent. So to me, if you want to hire experienced individual, just say experienced individual. Don't say that there's lack of talent in Singapore. I disagree with that. Because I'm sure there's so many people who graduated in cybersecurity every year. At least 5% will still be hundreds of them that are still in the way, either passionate of cybersecurity or talented in the faculty, right? So to me, I don't see talent as a shortage in Singapore. Only experienced individuals, because Singapore, quite in a way, it started maturing cybersecurity less than 10 years ago, right? So if you see people like, not many people are like Pan Yong or myself, or or those well-established people, which has more than 25 or 30 years, or not many, right?
Include,
Yes.
he didn't
Dude, I
include
wasn't
the other
even
four.
born.
So that's the thing, right? Yeah, but if you look at other countries, like for example, in India, they started cybersecurity as early as what, primary school, right? So, and that's the reason why they are in a way more experienced. Are they more talented? That's debatable. But to me, Singapore has produced every year a lot of graduates in cybersecurity, and some of these are passionate in this field. At the same time, they have showcased their talent as well. So companies must take the risk, or at least have the balls or courage to take the risk of hiring these students to showcase their talent. If not, if you define by experience, then no way that these students are able to showcase their talent if you are looking for experience. So that's my take on this, talent versus experience.
Right.
I
I think I would like to add on to the point, where you say there's a lot of graduates from cybersecurity. Actually, it's quite a funny thing. I think it's only for my batch. I'm not sure about Emil's, because Emil is quite more than half a decade older than me. No, I'm not just poking fun. I'm just saying. But
Is it true?
like when I started on the cybersecurity academic journey of cybersecurity back in 2012, the cutoff point for my polytechnic course was 18, if I remember correctly. It was 18 for L1 R4. So, it shows that the course is not very well received, not a lot of people, not very competitive, not a lot of people applying for it. But as you see, the national
Are you
focus.
telling us your grade wasn't very good? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, actually, no. People call me crazy for going to the cybersecurity because I was about almost 1/3 of the cutoff point.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, now I'm flexing.
Now
all
you're
right? Now I'm
flexing. There you go.
yes.
Yeah.
That's beside the point. So I was saying is that you see back then the focus was not so great on cybersecurity, but now government focus is on cybersecurity. And you know what's the bad thing is that the cutoff point became 3 points. 3 points to get into the same course that I got into in 2012 for L1 R4.
How do you get 3 points?
Maximum, the minimum 1 point. You get 5 points and then you minus 2 points from CCA.
Right.
Yeah. So it's essentially it's crazy. You're literally like you're saying you have a lack of talent, but people like who were in my batch back then in 2012 who graduate from cybersecurity with 18 points from O levels, but you're limiting people who are graduating from secondary school now to 3 points to go into the same course. You're not increasing the capacity intake.
I don't think it's limiting, but I think it's more
Sure, but I mean you're justifying that you are getting better people, so-called. I mean, definitely from the the secondary O levels is so-called they are better than their peers, so that's where they're coming in. But you need more people who are passionate about cybersecurity. But I never felt like my O level defined my journey in cybersecurity. Like it never made me like, oh, I'm so much better than my peers who got higher grades than me, in O levels or something, like higher L1 R4. It didn't make me that way. It was just a great stepping. I won't call it a stepping stone. I'll say it's a great starting point for me in cybersecurity. But they didn't increase the intake. For sure, I mean, they did gradually increase the intake, but it wasn't as drastic, as to keep up with the demand. So I feel that's actually one of the greatest points that government is utilizing. For example, let's say there isn't enough graduates for us or talented graduates for us to utilize in our ecosystem of cybersecurity. For sure, there is like people who were studying cybersecurity, they hop into different fields. Like I have friends who were with me in university. Now one of them became a real estate agent. That's his passion. He discovered it late. Sure, it's loophole. You don't blame it on him. Some of them became software engineers. Yeah, it's totally understandable. But the fact of the problem is there still isn't like enough people coming into the course and becoming where the course is big enough as compared to like let's say a business course in polytechnic where they have like 7 to 8 classes of students. Cybersecurity, I think maximum 4 to 5, 6 at max. So you're not keeping up the amount of people that you're able to take in and train them up such that they are able to keep up with the workforce, and yet you're complaining there's not enough people. So it's to me it's quite ironic. Like you are making it harder to get into cybersecurity, and then you're complaining there's not enough people taking up cybersecurity. Right? Shouldn't it be like, you keep the cutoff point the same, And then after that, you slowly expand the amount of people that's able to come in, such that everybody who scores between 3 to 18 points are able to take out cybersecurity. And the talented ones continue to stay on track for it.
How are you going to decide? Let's say you have a place for like 500 and then you receive like 3,000 applicants because 3,000 people gets below 18 points. So how are you going to decide who gets in?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like if I only have 500 slots. So the problem over here is, can I expand these 500 slots to accommodate all 3,000? Since I know that, let's say for example, I need 3,000 people in the workforce or cybersecurity, and yet my schools are only opening up 500 slots.
So it's a vicious cycle, right? Because in the first place, there weren't enough people. And to top it off, there's not enough educators. So then they have to slowly scale it, right? As more and more people go into cybersecurity, you're hoping that at least maybe 10% of them go into education and become educators. Right. And then from there, then you start to expand the number of places. But then to control the amount of people that can apply for it, the only way is to make it such that only the elites can apply, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to add a point. I think we seem to be using a industry age system for modern workforce. So the entire school system we are doing today was designed in the ages where we have factories, we have a very clear set of professions, right? You come out of the workforce, you're going to join a company, work for 40 years as a mechanical engineer, right? Now that was the past. That was the industry revolution school system, right? And we're still having that. I think we try to transform. So I think there's a need to think outside that paradigm and say, look, the modern workforce is different. I don't give a shit what degree you have, whether you have diploma. We can do the shit. We are hired for what Fadli say, real talents, right? Not people who get 3 points because you're really good at math and science and English, right? But honestly, I give you a computer, you have no clue what to do with that, and you're not passionate about it. So I think there's a need for the industry to sort of shift. And then the reality is shift. I think you look at the West, and the West, if you look at what's happening in the US and say, look, don't waste your time to get the university degree, right? That's way too expensive, very little value. We're just looking for people who can do the job. I think we need a shift, right? And let the market forces drive it. Let not try to produce cookie cutter workforce based on defined set of school syllabus that will never ever catch up with how things have moved, right? So whatever we're going to study 5 years ago about OWASP, right? Okay, maybe OWASP pretty much fixed, right? But a lot of things we learn is going to be very, very different, right? Absolutely different. So we learn about infrastructure and stuff like that. 5 years time, everything's going to the cloud, and realize you're going to look at the whole infrastructure in a totally different picture, right? So the only person who can work is go Google, right? Everything is absolutely free, right? You put some effort, you can learn Python coding in 8 hours. You get AWS certification in 8 hours for absolutely free, right? Why are we still so caught up in the traditional school system, right? And that have to change. I think that I believe that's the problem.
That would be an ideal world, right?
Where
kids below 15 know exactly what they want to do and already start Googling.
The key is this. The key is, have you watched Matrix?
Yeah.
So I know what I need to load myself with stuff, right? So what kids should learn in school is how to learn, how to pick stuff out, how to understand the problem, how to tear things apart as a hacker, right? You pick up the skills, but the next thing you do is just do all the matrix shit, right? Say, look, now I need to use Kung Fu, right? Plug it in and then you load it up. I think that's really the kind of workforce we create, because there's no way we can be predictive of what the next workforce, right? Maybe AI will take over pen tests, right? And what else? I don't know. That's
I'll always remember what my secondary school math teacher said.
Yeah.
That when you all start working, you never remember your trigo.
Yeah.
Or your
what's trigo?
Algebra and all those stuff.
Oh.
But he shared me this. But what I'm teaching you is actually critical thinking and problem solving skills. So I think in a way, secondary school is really just that sort of like basic stuff where you don't know what you want, but you're being taught all these essential skills. But people have this misconception thinking that, I'm going to use this subject in my future work, for example. But I agree with what you say. Like there needs to be a change, but I don't think it's so easy, because if everyone once they're born, they're like, I'm going to be a cybersecurity specialist.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it's much easier. The journey, like they can you can just go to YouTube, Google, you
Sounds
can
like
start
the
having this
Hunger
kind of
Games,
thinking.
you know, maybe
Uh,
set up districts. Here we go, District 10,
Yeah,
the cybersecurity
correct.
guys.
So
Yeah.
I want to quickly point out a very important fact. The fact I'm talking about Matrix, Peng is talking about Hunger Games. It presents the difference in age gap. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I watched Matrix all three,
Yeah.
man. I watched all
There you
three.
go.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
but I think
so,
still go back to we think about cybersecurity as a quite clearly, it's actually a multi-dimensional skill set, right? So be it in terms of social engineering, and when you think about it, the successful hacker are not those who say, yeah, I know I just found vulnerability, right? I understand the banking system, I know understand your processes, I can social engineer you. So now I understand the network, understand coding, understand the database, whole bunch of shit we got to put together to understand it. I think that's really and they say, look, no one, and I've met people who say their major are never in, seem really good, smart cybersecurity pro, right? They didn't start up doing coding, or they're probably doing philosophy or psychology or some really strange stuff they did in school, right? Yeah.
Actually, I think. Yeah. Isa, you go first.
Sorry, just to add on. Yeah, in my threat intel work, there are many people who don't have cybersecurity background. So it's really more on psychology or criminology, this type of degree. Go ahead, Peng Fei. I think Emil wanted to. I think it's like twice or thrice he got cut off.
We gotta cut
he
Emil off,
used up his quota, is it just now? He used up already, right?
he used up. That's it.
Yeah.
What the hell, man? 15 minutes of Emil talking.
I remember 3 points. He reached 3 points. Emil or Peng Fei, go ahead.
Okay, mine is real quick. I'll just finish it up so you can go on with your rant. But for me, I feel I feel like it's how do I put it? It's really about the you discovering what you really want to do. I think maybe it's because we're Asians. You know, a lot of us kind of grew up with the mindsets of what our parents really wanted to do and they didn't get to fulfill, and then how they are envisioning on us. Because I don't know if I told you guys about this before, but when the world was still normal back in 2018 or 2019, I went back for like a scholars meetup. So I went to meet up the younger scholars who came up with the scholarship lah. And then I was asking them, I said, so, you know, cheekily I asked them, I said, so what make you pick, you know, cybersecurity? Because they already the 3 pointers. You know, I was like, you can go anywhere you want. You can go to Raffles JC if you wanted to. I mean, so what made you pick up cybersecurity? And then one of the person's response to me was like, oh, my mom told me to lah. She felt it was a great job. I said, sure. I mean, that's an attraction, but what is it in this particular field that you really want to achieve? You know, you've been here for like 2 years in poly. There's definitely something that you've been exposed to, or something that's there, you know, that you really want to achieve. But they're just blank. They just told me it's just, you know, So would you call this talent?
So this is one point that I want to share as well. Like, people are influenced, or students are influenced to get into a field, right? Like, for example, like you hear the news about cybersecurity will be a couple of billions, trillions in the next 10 years, right? And there's still a lack of talent for this field. Then everyone will, like parents or the student itself himself would be like, okay, I'm gonna go into that field. I might get a better future. But then it's not their passion, right? So once they get out of the program, they graduated from the uni, and they want and they go into the field, right? They cannot prove that they are really good enough for the field. They don't have the passion. They realize that they really don't like this setting for cybersecurity. So I think we have a lot of talent, and so it quite contradicts what Fadli said, right? Like, we have a lot of talent, why not give them a chance? But I think we have a lot of talent, but the question is, are they really experienced to can they really deliver what the company needs?
My take on that is the opportunity is not given to these talented individuals at a first stage, right? For your point, it makes sense, because a talented individual go into this, given the opportunity to apply, they don't like it, and they know this is not my field. For me, my concern is more towards talented individuals or graduated personnel or students are not given the first step to apply in a company. So that's where I feel like we do have a lot of talents, but they are not being given the opportunity to test it out in a company. Yeah.
Yeah, I could attest to that as well.
Yeah, I think it's
So
the
I,
same.
I try to shift to cybersecurity, right? But my background is, I have threat intel background for just a very short period, and I have mostly my experience is software development. So you always get rejected because you're not experienced enough. This is a senior level position. You're just having a junior level experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, quite funny.
Yeah, which is the same point as the students that could be talented in cybersecurity, but they didn't get 3 points for O levels, don't get an opportunity to pursue the education. And then from there, when you come off to the workforce, people ask you like, "Oh, sorry, we're only looking for a degree in cybersecurity," and then you don't get hired.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
Also the criteria, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it boils down to a lot of different points as to why we are not having enough talents.
I think if that's the case, then it also boils down to how you sell yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Of course, I mean, like if you don't get into the course, but yet you still have a passion for it, you can go pursue maybe OSCP. So hot right now, HR, every HR loves OSCP. You got OSCP, you pen test. Yes. Yeah. Okay, here's a plug to offensive security. So I hope you guys get sponsored.
So I want to tell. I'm not sure. One fact I want to verify. Right? I understand today the pen test industry is so hot that everybody is struggling to find people. I'm sure we don't have Ryan here. I'm sure how he's probably making tons of money right now. But yeah, I'm sure how true is it? Yeah, that's what. But I also want to share a bit of story. Some guy who sort of work for me, right? He didn't have a cybersecurity background. So I encouraged him to YCP was really struggling. Like he just passed his maybe a couple of weeks back. He was elated and so happy, right? He couldn't stop sending me messages about it. And then next thing he said you're going to progress to do crash a whole bunch of stuff. I think the opportunities are out there if you put the effort, right? So go hit a few hack the boxes, right? I say OSCP is there. It's probably cybersecurity one of the few fields that you actually can go get a certificate in OSCP, get in crash, at least and get in a pen testing work quite comfortably, right? So I think the opportunity is there. Yeah.
I think maybe from Fali's point, right, is that these talents could be be discouraged especially where they don't get opportunity at all. A lot of people, like for example, let's say I want to play basketball. Let's say I'm very good at basketball. Like with my height, and all that kind of stuff, I could make maybe like a point guard in NBA, but I don't get an opportunity because I wasn't trained in it. Yeah, I get very discouraged, which is why I stopped playing basketball. But I mean, that's like playing with what ifs, right? So
who said
you
you're
go
good
on
at
forever
basketball?
with that. No, I'm not. I'm quite trash.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who say you're good, right? Like if I say I'm good,
Emil says I'm good. Bro, Emil says I'm good.
Good.
Like
It's all relative. It's all relative.
Yeah, correct, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think we can pass the time to our guy who haven't spoken for the last.
He's been waiting. He's been waiting. I've been eyeing him. He's like,
I saw him raise his hands. I'm
like,
like,
like that.
No. We can't.
Not yet. No, not yet. Even now.
Okay, Emil.
I'm just waiting for it.
Take the time, Emil.
No, the thing is,
Take the floor.
I have.
Okay, that's it.
As
Okay,
usual.
Emil, your time is up.
As usual, I have a bit of. A lot of thoughts. I think going through my mind, hearing about all your opinion, your experience of, and I really 100% agree with all everything you all said. I think I really enjoyed how Fadli bring up this topic to begin with, talking about talent versus experience. One of the things I like to say is call a spade a spade. You want experience, just say you are experienced, right? You want talent, then just tell me that you really want talent. My involvement in Div0, looking at community grow, with all of you, we see the evolution of the community over the years, and now also with Div0 being involved in organization like CYS, the Cyber Youth Singapore, and all, and my recent involvement with a talent development company called Red Alpha. So I actually take this particular topic in heart quite a lot. I think first thing first is, I think first definitely agree with what Fadi say. You want experience, just say you want experience. You want talent, say you want talent, right? I think quite interesting Twitter and a very interesting tweet a couple of years ago. I lost track of time because of COVID, probably I think 1 to 2 years ago. And I think it kind of also make it into a meme over time. Is there is this particular programmer and that actually he was tweeting about it and said that recently a HR contacted him and said that I want you to have 5-year experience to code in this particular programming language or code in this particular framework, right? Yeah, so and then he was like, I can't, because I will not have 5-year experience because I'm the freaking creator and I only created 3 years ago. And that is the freaking problem. It's like it's actually the main thing is, recruitments are not in tune with the industry, and cybersecurity is a very weird one. To put it simply, it's a very unique one. As Pan you mentioned about skill sets and so on. It's a very tough field. It's a very, very tough field, because even us cybersecurity folks, we asked ourselves 2 years ago, will you ever imagine where you are currently? Or what actually when you started, are you where you are when you think that you started, right? Fadi, you were a pen tester, you did TI and so on. We all evolve over time, right? I started in R&D doing ops, and I also evolved over time. And so I think even us, when we decide whether to come to cybersecurity, now we are in cybersecurity, it's like, okay, what do I want to do? And this is a lot of the conversation we always hear. I don't know what I want to do. It's like, it doesn't matter. Right, and then how do we recruit people and tell them, it's like, oh, you need X amount of experience, or you need to focus on a certain path to get somewhere? It's a very hard conversation. It's a crazy field to begin with. And I like to touch on the word talent. Very interesting one. I thought it's I didn't think too much about it until lately. Actually, honestly speaking, I share a story with you. But before I go there, I think Pengfei or even Fadi, you mentioned that there is a shortage of talent. Actually, I agree. I still agree there is a shortage of talent, or maybe not a shortage of talent. Let me not correct myself. There's still a shortage of people filling up job roles. I think that is the more accurate one. There are still positions. There's still a lot of positions open, and I think maybe I think the media has slowly tried to correct themselves in terms of that. They don't really talk about talent shortage, or maybe sometimes when they use the word talent, they use it very loosely, right? They don't want to call people headcounts. Right, so end up they say we have a shortage of talent, right? They use talent as a substitute word of not making you feel bad that it's a blue collar job, or if you ever think that it is one, or they don't want to say it's engineer, because people in their 40s and 50s view the word engineer very different from people who are currently in their 20s or early 30s, right? You hear about engineers like, whoa, great, you build stuff, it's so cool. If you tell someone who is in their 60s and 70s that you're an engineer, they look at you and say, why are you stuck doing that, right? You should be a manager, right? And I think a lot of things is Asian culture as well. I think that the attitude towards like why you need to go to university, what's the purpose of universities, as Pan Yong and Iza had a long conversation earlier as well. And that is a whole new track on its own. Also talk about attitude on why we learn, or learning how to learn, right? On the lesson learned that, or the lesson that Matt's the Iza's maths teacher told him, right, about core skills, critical thinking, and so on. So yeah, so the word talent just I think when everyone sees, you just have a different sentiment behind it. I had a very interesting story I kind of want to share about this. Is recently I was in a panel discussion with CSA, with MCI, with people from the industry, and a couple of my my youth leaders from our youth leaders from CYS, right? And they touched on the word talent, and there was a bit of miscommunication for like 10-20 minutes, until a lot later that everyone was like, oh, okay, that's what we're talking about, which is actually a lot of youth have this stigma of the word talent means elite. As what Pengfei also mentioned, cut off point 3, right? Means I'm not cut off point 3, I'm not an elite, I'm not a talent, right? And then now you keep talking about there's talent shortage, then that's not me, right? I'm not talented. I don't know whether it's a self-esteem problem or whatever with our even our youth and so on. It's just how it's being perceived. On one end, the adults don't want to belittle the thing, but we call it talents, and yet it have this big massive confusion of what different programs is really for, and are we really tackling talent shortage problem? And earlier, I think it's either, I think Fadi was mentioning about, you know, some companies actually need to, you know, have the balls, right, to try out talents. Actually, looking at the market, I see a wide different range of recruiters or even companies of different maturity or attitude of hiring. There are some that actually believe that, yeah, there are talented people, I can find them. But actually 99% of them, they don't know how to develop them at the end of the day. They also don't know how to identify them. And we have this headcount shortage at the end of the day is because of, in terms of the recruitment, the way recruitment is being done is left pocket, right pocket, right? We go conferences all the year, end up actually what's the main thing that always comes out? Oh, where are you now? Because you go to organization A, and person go to C, go to, it's a one big musical chair cycle, right? So it's just, you know, overall recruitment is, we need, how can we break this particular cycle, right? Do we need to be more daring behind it? I don't want to go too much into it. My involvement in this startup corporate alpha, we try to do something like this, which is take people who actually we spot talent and place them into organizations. There are also many other new programs that came out like this, like CSA came out with something called CSDP. SG Innovate actually came out with something called Power X as well. I think that there are recognition that there needs to be a breaking of this vicious cycle of talent experience and so on, how to spot talents and all. I don't fully agree with some of the programs and many other factors as well. But I think that's a good start. But hopefully, in some way, I also hope that all these programs, if not executed properly, will not jeopardize too much of the industry either. And okay, I want to find last point. I want to go back to the word talent again, which is actually a lot recently because of all the hype on media, and as Pengfei mentioned, it's like some people just go into it because my parents say so long. Actually, Singapore sometimes can make it even worse. Well, good and bad, right? Is this thing called cyber NSF, right? There are parents that actually think that, oh, I don't want my kids to chiong sua get injured for those foreign, okay, I don't know whether we have foreign listeners, but yeah, the people don't want to do that. They rather that 2 years of conscription in the army that to be in the aircon room, right? So there you go, do NS, and there are people actually decided that they want to do that to have an easier life for that 2 years, because somehow or other that 2 years is very daunting to people, right? End up cybersecurity. Yeah, Pengfei, I know you enjoy your NS. I also somehow
love it. Infantry Chong Sua, love it.
Yeah, so it's the attitude to it is like there are a lot of people actually in cybersecurity, and I can really tell you, I actually say that quite a handful, more than 50% of people that I talk to, they have no idea why they want to get into cybersecurity. They somehow just want to get into it because of that. Are they really talented? I really don't know. And then end up people. And this cybersecurity industry somehow also is rather horrible in a way that, you know, we come in and say, oh, you need to take OSCP, oh, you need to take this, you need to take all this, you know, you need to constantly learn. And I have seen into interviews and when you ask people, it's like, oh, why do you want to join this company? Oh, I'm here to learn. You're not here to learn. You're here to contribute. You're here to secure.
You're here to get paid.
Yeah,
You're to get paid while learning.
Yes, you're here to earn your pay.
Yeah.
Right, and also the best one, you know, so many interviewees like, oh, I'm passionate. Oh, tell me about your passion. Nothing. Cannot tell me about anything about that passion. Just like,
It's a natural feeling I feel.
Yeah, sometimes every day I see my office chair,
warm and fuzzy.
the stand-up meeting turns on, boom, boom, I pump with passion.
Yeah, and then suddenly the word zero trust, ransomware come out of my mouth. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. So the word talent is just, oh goodness, it opens a big can of worms.
So actually, I think it's quite important to define what do we mean by talent. What's the meaning? I just Google on Oxford. Oxford says,
shit.
Yeah, there you go. Right. I Google. That's a talent. Talent meant natural aptitude or skill. Natural.
Yeah.
Natural.
So 3 points doesn't equate natural aptitude or skill.
Yeah.
To answer Peng Fei's question, actually, I am the first batch of poly cybersecurity. That was 2006.
Bro, I was
then,
still primary 5.
there's only 2 polytechnics that offer cybersecurity, TP and SP, and each poly only had about 40 graduates, so there are 80, right? And the people who actually really pursue cybersecurity is like a third or less. By the time I really, although in between I do a lot of internships, I contribute here and there, do a lot of part-time, take a lot of freelance work and so on. But by the time I really finish university, that's like 2015. So we talk about the intervention when people start to say, oh, we have a shortage of something. That actually, and include NS and so on, that took me a 9-year journey, right? So when we want to invest something, sometimes we need to be patient. I think to me, I was like, yeah, I was the first batch and it took me 9 years.
No, you see, you're the first batch, right? Back then it was 40. When it reached my batch in 2012, 6 years difference, just highlighting it again. Like, 6 years. When it was my batch in 2012, we had about 70 graduates from the diploma itself. Back then it was in NYP area, so no longer just SP and TP. But the point was 18. I don't know what was your cutoff point back then. I would suspect it's a little bit higher.
No, first batch. Interesting. That's interesting about cutoff point, which is during first batch no cutoff point. First batch, the highest pointer set the cutoff point. And I still remember my director looking at me and saying, "Oh, yeah, the cutoff point." And I was 15. My cutoff point, I was 15. So my batch, we set. I mean, I'm the first batch, so I set a cutoff point at 15 for SP.
Right.
Actually, interestingly, I think by the third or fourth year, we were told that the cutoff point was already 8 or 9. Yeah.
Oh, no, that was by my batch.
And 2010.
By my batch, SP1 was about 14, 14, 15.
I think it always changed based on the highest cutoff point.
Yeah, could be. But the problem is, as I said, like even from your year to all the way to my year, the change wasn't that rapid, but the increase of intake was there. But now is that it's becoming funneled, even though there's a slight increase of intake, right? But it's very funneled down to only these people that has the opportunity to test it out. Because to me, poly was the period of time where I was really sure, after I was done with poly, I was really sure that I want to continue with cybersecurity. And it was no other career, Of course, I was in secondary school, I was dreaming I would be an investment banker, flying around the world, with all the money in my pocket, just floundering around. But it was during poly, because I was given the opportunity to discover it, that I want to be in the industry itself. And from there, it's been 9 years.
Yeah, it's true. I think if we go around this room, no one knows that we want to do cybersecurity at a young age.
Yeah, so exactly.
I didn't even know it existed until I entered poly.
Exactly. So which is why, as I said, the fact of the matter that I feel is the biggest problem is that the government is not allowing more youths to be exposed, to have the opportunity to go through cybersecurity I mean, of course, I understand, there's a limit, limit cap on, like 500 students, 3,000 people applying. Of course, they have to lower the points to get the best 500 out of the 3,000. But there has to be something done, visibly.
No, wait, but aren't you using the wrong matrix? So I'll give you an example, right? If Oxford Dictionary says talent is natural, aptitude, or skill, natural, right? That means you're born with it. So if you want to find if someone has a natural aptitude for art or swimming, right? Give them a pen, go through, and then jump in the water and swim, right? So how do we figure out someone who can do like
Payong, tomorrow we bring Kali, we go down to the Tan Tock Seng Hospital.
So I give you an example. I spent some time with IBM. So they have a program with MOD, IBM in the UK with MOD. To basically what they want to do is find people with aptitude for cybersecurity across air, sea, and land when they create the joint cyber command, right? And that's the problem we're trying to solve. And the question they try to figure out is, how do I find people who have no formal tech training but have the aptitude, right? So I think what they did is they put a few things together, right? Can they solve a problem? They have a tendency to break things apart and a whole bunch of stuff. Are they good at building a storyline? Say do threat intel, you've got to really build a story. I think that's really the matrix we should be looking for, as opposed to how good is someone with languages, or how good is someone with science or math. Because I'm not sure all necessary a mathematical skill equate to ability to do a cybersecurity job. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
this
think
is the point that my girlfriend,
yeah.
I'll just be real quick. My girlfriend brought it up to me because she graduated from an international high school.
Yeah.
So it's
Right.
quite different from, our perspective of
Yeah.
secondary school or JC kind of education.
Yeah.
She told me the
Yeah.
real difference that she felt between her secondary education and her international high school, right, was that
Yeah.
she had critical thinking classes. They actually have classes directed at critical thinking. So from there, you can see the American system, because there was an American international high school. So the American system places emphasis, on top of just us being able to do the normal subjects lah. That you have to have certain aspect of critical thinking, and I think that's where our education system can shift towards. For us to identify that kind of aptitude. Of course, critical thinking is really about how you solve this particular problem within a particular period of time, I would say.
Yeah. So I would say someone who have journalistic ability may be pretty good for track and tell work, right? You can join the dots together and stuff like that. Yeah.
So I think jumping real quick on 2 points. I think first one, Peng Fei, you actually mentioned something interesting about critical thinking. I have my view about that actually. I have my skepticism towards it. I always about the how do we complement soft skill, hard skills, and part of our educations and so on.
Yep.
Yeah, it's actually a good. I don't want to go too much into it, honestly.
Yes, sir. But I don't think we have another 30 minutes for you to talk about.
But it's actually a problem that is actually looked at by MOE. So a couple of months ago, I was having a conversation with MOE about this particular problem as well. It is something that everyone is concerned about. And how do we train out all these soft skills, because hard skill at the end could also could get out of it, especially when it comes to IT or engineering or whatever it is, right? I think again, the definition of talent, I love that. I think really again go back to what are we trying to solve? Are we trying to find talent, or are we trying to find people to fill our headcounts or to fill our open position? I think it's all done differently, and we cannot group them together. But it's just somehow or other we just call everything talent. Therefore, end up we have this kind of a discrepancy or this kind of disagreement here and there about all this. Again, I just want to quickly mention. So, for currently Red Alpha, we have our first batch actually.
There's a second plug right here. I'm gonna charge you money.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So first was CSA, now Red Alpha.
Red Alpha. So about trainees, or about 9 of them actually have no cybersecurity background or no IT background. We actually have musicians. We have architects and
wow.
So it's it's like how do we identify? We have to find ways to identify aptitude, right? I just want to throw a quick example on this, which is we have over 2,000 people apply, right? And we only shortlisted like 11 at the end of the day through various different testing. And interestingly, just put it this way, our first test, right, is actually to break a PCAP file or analyze a PCAP file. And we are talking about 9 people who actually have no cybersecurity background who can analyze PCAP files, and some of them even do not even have IT background, and they can analyze PCAP file on their own, right? It actually shows that how resourceful they are, and so on. They have the knack for it, right? And we just we have to find ways to take them on. We Red Alpha as a company, we still have a lot of struggles, because if you go to tell recruitment, they'll look at you as like they're not proven or whatever. But people just have to suck it up, have the balls to do something like this, right? In order to break this talent problem, right? So again, go back to I mean for Div0 or even for SynCon or even going around conferences. Nowadays, if you talk about 10 years ago, right, when when we all, a couple of us already, when we met and network each other, we partly when we come together, no one have really formal big cybersecurity training, right? We just come together and we talk about cybersecurity stuff, our experience, and that was fun, right? That was what you learn, what I experienced, and that's why Div0 was even created and become what it is today. But actually, and then I don't know whether you observed this, which recently a lot of people come in and say, what cert to take, right? Not in just Div0 community, but everywhere, right? Everywhere, all the I was part in so all different forums I go, in Black Hat, in HITV, in pretty much everywhere. I say, what's the thing? Because people want like, oh, I want to take a cert and then I can convert it to a job, right? So do we consider them as talent as well? It's hard to really define all these things. I think we need to have avenues to identify people that can come into the industry, right? And we have to recognize that there is no one fixed path, and we have to adapt accordingly on this. Yeah.
So can you like something but you don't have a talent for it? Like, no, I like to sing, but you know what? I'm just terrible at karaoke.
Why not? Yeah,
yeah.
why not?
You can still sing. You can still sing, but you
just
you
not
won't
in
get
front of
it.
people.
Yeah.
Just not in front of people. Yeah. Keep it to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a spectrum. We have some
Yeah.
gift and talents or something, and then all of us come into cybersecurity. Not all of us going to be like the reverse engineer guru or a whole bunch of stuff, right? Then I think what binds us more than anything else is just why we all come together was interest, more than anything else. And then of course, some things is a bit of cycle, right? Your interest makes you better at something, and then it's sort of
Yeah. At the end, it's all the delivery. It's like interest and then the delivery part of it.
Yeah.
If it breach, that's great. It's like
Yeah.
I enjoy coding, but
Yeah.
I can't code for a job,
Yeah.
right? I love policy, but sometimes I get really bored writing it.
Yeah.
So it's where do you find the balance, right?
Yeah.
I think another question also is, are we really hiring talent or experienced people in cybersecurity? A few years back, I have this experience. So my previous company hired me to harden their servers, and then one day they asked me like, oh, they told me that someone will be doing the pen testing on the server. So I did sync up with the guys, and a few days going back and forth, and they were asking me like, can you remove the hardening of the server because our tools cannot even penetrate your server? Like, that's the point, man. That's the point of your pen tester. Yeah, your report should reflect that this server cannot be
secure,
secure.
Yeah,
it's very secure. Yeah. It's like funny, man. So are we really hiring talent, experienced people for the job?
It actually reminds me of the first bug bounty program by MINDEF, where Div0 we were participating in, and then so yeah, we were trying to find participants to talented people to actually attack MINDEF open system, right? And as we're doing an open call, we actually got a very interesting question for. It's like, hey, not fair lah. You say that the bug bounty is from this day to this day. They confirm patch it and harden it one. Then I was like, that's the purpose.
Yeah.
You want to harden, patch it, and then you find whatever that they missed, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not there to give you free money, hello.
Yeah, true.
They're not fair. I was like, why? Not fair. It's absolutely fair. It's the absolute goal of it.
Yeah. So is it possible that we are running out of talent because untalented guys are in the position, right?
That's
interesting.
Talent give up. The talents give up.
Actually, talents are like, screw this. I don't want to work with idiots. It could be. That could be another take on it. But fair of the matter, I think we can wrap it up. Yeah, I think we can wrap it up. The fair of the matter is that I don't think we are short of talent. I think we are short on the process of discovering the talent and putting them at the best position where these talents can shine. Because if they are talent, especially if they're talented in a particular set of skills, and generally I won't even say like talents are like, should have the work-related skills at all. They should have characteristics that will enable them to become better at the skills, because these characteristics are what propel them forward, like discipline, like tenacity, like I would say smartness and thinking of the box. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. So for people to identify people with this kind of stuff, there's people like this in every single industry. We won't just keep it inside cybersecurity. There's definitely people like this in like maybe even like fishing industry. How do you who was the guy who came up with sonar to scan for fish? Who was the dude? The guy was thinking of the box. That was a talent right there. There's a talent. So we're talking about this kind of talent, and how do we absorb them and expose them in cybersecurity? That's actually, I think that's a key question. If the talents are not given the opportunities to even be exposed to cybersecurity, to see whether or not cybersecurity is actually the place where they can get some form of fulfillment or enjoyment from it, right? Then we're definitely out of talent because we are not able to absorb these talents in. Yeah. But experience doesn't equal to talent, as what Fali said. Experience just means that you're experienced with this job. And at the moment I throw you to this job, maybe you will know exactly what to do with it because it's following the same kind of experience you have. But are you talented to drive a new change, like the framework that we talked about in our previous topic, a framework whereby developers and the cybersecurity specialists can work and complement together? Will you be able to be talented enough to be the one who's spearheading and driving this framework? Maybe you're not, because you're only working on experience, but you're not working on talent. Yeah, everybody can be a talent so long as you're able to cultivate the right amount of characteristic. Yeah, that's how I feel like that was boiled down from all our discussion thus far.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
want to just talk about one thing. Very fast.
Shit. Okay, guys,
One more plug. One more
we're out
plug.
of time, guys.
But one thing I really want to highlight also is we cannot belittle although we talk about talent, but we cannot belittle experience. Experience is still variable.
Definitely, yes.
It's still variable.
Yeah.
I have a few. I have some conversation with folks that say, people who are actually very young, passionate, it's like they go in organizations like, they actually, when they hear that people have a lot of experience, years of experience, they see them as, they are traditional, they are out of date, which is not true. Actually, experience with work experience, there are a lot of skills, especially when it comes to soft skills. How do you communicate security? Earlier what we talk about the pen test, about how we gel the whole framework in together and all. A lot of things actually requires experience.
Of course, definitely.
Anyway, just want to highlight in case any of our listeners was like, hey, hello.
Maybe if any of the experienced listeners are listening,
Yes.
we're not belittling you.
I'm an experienced person. I will quote for my favorite person on experience, Randy Posh. Randy Posh, Randy Posh. He must experience enough to watch the last lecture. He says experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. And experience is often the most valuable thing you have to offer. Yeah.
Wow, that's deep.
That's
But
deep,
it shouldn't
right?
be the only thing you have to offer.
It shouldn't be the only thing you have to offer. Yeah. But the fact of the matter, I think it came back to why Fadli brought up this topic to talk about, is that the government is complaining that we're out of talent. And that's why we had to bring in talents from overseas in. But it's, you go back to the same point, where we don't have the correct exposure path for us to even discover talent in the first place. Then how are we to say that we're out of talent? Experience is experience. Experience just have to spend an amount of years on it.
Yeah. That's exactly my point, correct.
Yeah. But I think maybe also to so qualify the work experience, I think experience we tend to say is a very long drawn out thing, right? No, I don't think so. I think every time you open a keyboard and type something, right, you go to CTF, you hit the wall, you try harder. That is experience.
Definitely.
It's not equate to length of time. I think it equate more to the amount of failure you face in life. Yeah.
Okay, now this is slowly becoming a philosophical hour.
Yeah, that comes to the man with lots of experience.
Payang. So you got to understand, right? The context of we are talking about more to the corporate perspective, right? So when we talk about experience here, is the experience that benefit the corporate world, right? Yeah. So you don't go down to deep, man. That's
come on, it's 12 o'clock.
I'm going to say that's what she said, but I don't know if that can be posted on a video. If you can't, please cut me out.
Unfiltered, man.
Unfiltered, man. We can say it.
You're gonna be cancelled.
Tomorrow see me on Twitter, right? That's it. I think that's it. I think that's a great chat with you guys. It's been a very long time, and I hope the viewers had a great time listening to us babbling, about the different opinions, I would say. But definitely we come down, to a singular agreement on the two different topics that we talked about today. And we hope that the cybersecurity community, or even the ecosystem itself, will be able to proceed forward in what we hope is the utopian thinking of ours, that we've been talking about so far. And if you have, actually we should open up, right? Emil, let's open up a survey for the viewers. We can have a survey and ask the viewers to fill up what kind of topics do you guys want us to talk about. Again, next season, I'm sorry. It's not the end of the season 1. Next episode, episode 5.
I mean, they can just write in the comments, right?
Yeah, sure. If you guys feel comfortable to
Uh.
write in the comments, for sure. We can open up a Google form as well. Yeah, we'll see what we do. We'll let you know in the description. Yeah, check down below at the descriptions.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yes, and
Don't
click
forget
the
to
bell.
donate.
Click the bell.
Do we have Patreon? Or
Patreon, yeah, check out
Patreon.
Patreon link. Yeah.
There's time to open an OnlyFans. Let's go. Put Fali as the
Sidetrack. OnlyFans went back on their word on sexual content. So
Oh yeah,
hey, we're back.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's why we
Okay,
can go on
business.
it. Oh shit! They cancel my side hustle. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you to all the viewers on the audience for following out with us. It's been it's been 5 months since we started this. This podcast. 5 months, yeah. And it's been 4 episodes. I'm so sorry for the lack of update. We'll try to keep up again with episode 5 next month in September. But maybe by the time you watch this, it's already September, so October. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Catch you again on the
Bye.
flip side. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.